amazing Australians and the story of their lives. You're tuned to Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald.
Hello listeners and welcome. My guest today is Blind Australian of the Year finalist Janelle Colquhoun. Janelle is an accomplished opera singer who was awarded a scholarship to the Queensland Conservatorium of Music, spent 7 years singing with the Frankfurt Opera, and sang a duet with Dame Joan Sutherland during her farewell Australian tour. She has established Salubrious Productions, an entertainment and production agency specialising in professional artists with a disability. She is a professional corporate speaker, writer, MC, classical and jazz singer, and is the Australian blind archery champion and record holder. Welcome, Janelle.
Oh, good morning, Rosemary.
Good morning, and thank you for being with us on Lots to Chat About. Now, Janelle, you were 10 years old when you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Now, that must have been a huge shock to you and your family.
It certainly was, because it just came out of the blue, and it was only that my mother had a friend who had type 1 diabetes that my mother recognised all the signs really early and took me to the doctor early before I was really sick, like a lot of people are when they get first diagnosed. So then it was just suddenly learning how to give injections every day and count carbohydrates. And then at the time, because this is quite a few years ago now, we were just doing urine testing. So now it's people are all wearing continuous blood glucose monitors on their body, so it's monitoring their blood glucose every second of the day. But then it was just a urine test which showed how much sugar you had in your urine for the last, since the last time you went to the loo. So it wasn't very accurate, which is why I got so many diabetic complications.
It was a different time, wasn't it, back then? But look, Janelle, it didn't hinder your passion to be on the stage, did it? Because during school you took music, dance and drama lessons. You performed in choirs, stage shows, dance reviews and played trumpet in concert and jazz bands. So, as I say, it certainly didn't stop your enthusiasm.
Absolutely not. I'm a very driven and motivated person, and I wanted to be on stage, and that was all my passion. And, everything I did was aimed towards, finishing school and making it to be, a full-time professional performer.
And you won a scholarship to study opera at the Queensland Conservatorium of Music, and you sang full-time at World Expo 88 as a street entertainer. Tell us a little bit more about that.
That was an absolutely fantastic time in my life. So I was studying part-time a postgraduate opera degree at the Conservatorium at the time, and I decided to apply to sing at World Expo 88 because I just thought there were so many entertainers from around the world going to be there, and it was such a great opportunity. So I put in for my vocal quartet to sing there, and we got a full-time contract, so we were singing there on the site 5 days a week. And when I was partying one night, because we did an enormous amount of partying during Expo 88.
I can imagine.
I mentioned about my idea for a comedy character, Janelle Melba, the roller skating opera singer, and they loved the idea, so they went away and made me this costume, which was this enormous gold dress with pointed boobs and horns on my head and a great big gold hoop skirt. And which the first day I went out roller skating in it, I was roller skating up a hill on the expo site and was rolling up my dress. So basically it brought me to my knees. And so while I'm down on my knees, I'm singing this dying aria to everyone and then having to ask people to help me up because there was no way I could get up myself.
Has anybody got that on video?
I'm not sure whether they've got that particular time on video. It's quite possible, though, because there were lots of people who had photos of me. In fact, someone took a photo of me, which then an artist did a painting of that photo because it happened to go through the photographic laboratory that my father was working in. My father got a copy of the picture, and so now it's hanging in my lounge room and somewhere in someone's lounge room, I'm probably still looking like Janelle Melba, the opera singer, in someone's
on roller skates.
On roller skates, yeah.
Oh, how wonderful. I wish I could find a video of it. But now, Janelle, at the end of Expo 88, you were contracted full-time to sing with the Australian Opera. where you sang with Dame Joan Sutherland in her farewell season. Now, that must have been an incredible experience.
It was absolutely brilliant, and Dame Joan Sutherland is such a lovely lady. So I was basically the understudy, and I didn't think I'd get a chance to go on stage and actually sing in it, but the person I was understudying went off sick,
Yes.
so I got the chance to go on stage with Dame Joan, and because her husband, Richard Bonning, was conducting, so he wanted to see me before the performance, and he just looked at me and said, "You know the part, right?" And I said, "Yep." And he says, "Then just go on and have a great time," which was just the best advice to give someone just about to go on stage with Dame Joan Sutherland in her farewell season when people had flown from around the world to see this performance. And as it turned out, because she was so nervous on the final night, which was the night they were videoing for broadcast, that the performance that I did is actually in the video, which is sold around the world.
Oh, really?
So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but the other lady's name is written down as doing it because it was supposed to be the final night performance, not the penultimate performance. So.
Right. But what, as I said, what a magnificent experience, because she was certainly an icon, wasn't she? Had you discovered at that stage, Janelle, that your sight was going, or what was the situation there?
Because I like to keep my blood sugar levels high, which is not good, because I was always so worried about having a low blood sugar and passing out on stage. So there were days when my eyesight was blurry because my blood sugar levels were too high. And so I knew that there were potential issues coming up, but I just ignored them and kept on saying, well, there's no way I want to pass out on stage because then I'm going to lose my job. So I kept it quiet and just kept on with life.
And then you moved to Europe, where you worked in all sorts of jobs, didn't you, including cleaning toilets and whatever, and basically to keep your head above water.
Yeah, well, first of all, when I arrived there, I just went over to study with a teacher over there. And so to be able to afford the rent and the living costs, I got a job because I didn't have any work permit. So you have to do, an cash in hand sort of job. So, yeah, I cleaned dirty German toilets for about a year to keep myself surviving and paying for my singing lessons and that sort of thing before then I got offered a full-time contract with a Frankfurt Opera.
And how long were you with them for, Janelle?
About 7 years, and I basically I was planning to come back to Australia to take up a good position, but during the last 6 months I was there, I went through 28 eye operations and ended up completely blind.
And you came back to, I think, Australia at that stage and fell into a little bit of depression, I think, didn't you? Which I'm not surprised listening to that.
Well, because I was working full-time in the career that I was passionate about and then suddenly coming up short with, no one wanted me on stage and no job, and obviously having to come back to Australia and then relying on my parents to look after me because, when I first arrived back, I just moved back in with my parents. And, of course, moving back in with your parents when you've been living away from home a long time and becoming a very independent person was very difficult. And it was mostly my independence that I was really frustrated and angry and upset about losing.
Well, I can imagine how difficult that would have been, probably certainly for you, and it would have been a bit of a strain on your parents as well. But then you sang the role of the High Priestess in Michael Edgley's worldwide production of Ada at the ANZ Stadium. So that was round about that time as well?
Yeah, so that came up because my singing teacher put me forward. He was working as an agent as well. And because the role of the High Priestess actually sings off stage, so they weren't worried about me falling off. That was what their concern always was, that I'd fall off a stage, even though, of course, there's always people around on stage and people can stop me from falling off stage. And obviously I can get a fairly good idea of where I am. But this role is an off-stage role, so that's why I got the opportunity to sing that, which was just absolutely incredible. It was just such a fantastic experience.
I'm sure it would have been. So how long did that run for?
I think. Well, I'm just trying to think because it was in the ANZ Stadium, so they pack like thousands of people in. So I think it was 2 performances only.
And I'm sure that somewhere there's a record of that. But I think we'll try and actually possibly put in a little bit of your music during this interview when Paul's doing some of the production afterwards. We'll see how we'll go there. But you then went on to establish your business, Salubrious Productions. So tell us more about that.
Well, I was on the board of Access Arts, a disability arts organisation, and they were saying about how there were no agents representing professional artists with disability. And it was because the agents just thought it was all too hard and too much extra work and that sort of thing. And they turned to me and said, Janelle, why don't you do it? Because they knew I was bored with, going from a, full-time career down to nothing. And so I just went, well, I've got the connections, I've got the experience, I've got the networks. Why don't I start up this agency, which is what I did. And because obviously I had straight away a whole lot of people I already knew that I could invite onto my books, and then started looking around and casting the net out and booking people in for jobs.
And you've produced over 1,500 mainstream and disability stream events, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've been kept busy, and obviously I got a really good contract with the Brisbane City Council. They encouraged me, because I was on the committee for the Brisbane City Council, and they'd encouraged me to apply to produce the Lunchtime Concert Series, which has been going for about 80 years now, the longest free lunchtime concert series in the world. And they also encouraged me to apply for the Library Series, which puts performers into libraries. So I have been doing that since 2003.
That's the producing the Brisbane Lord Mayor's City Hall concerts for that period of time.
Yeah, well, I took a few years out because I was bullied in my position, and so I just had to take a few years off to get my head back together. But pretty much since. So I think I've been producing the concerts for 18 years now.
Oh, how wonderful. Now, you're listening to Lots to Chat About. My guest is Janelle Colquhoun, opera singer, Australian Blind Person of the Year, and blind archery champion. And my name is Rosemary Peterswald. On top of all of that, Janelle, you were hit with stomach cancer, kidney failure, and you had a double transplant. And on top of that, a heart attack. Gosh, I mean, how much else could you be hit with?
Oh, there's a few more that aren't on that list. So.
Oh, really? Oh, gosh, yes.
So, obviously, it's just because I'm a really motivated and driven person and very positive and also very stubborn, that I just didn't let anything stop me. So even when I was really sick, I was still producing concerts. I was still looking after my artists and sending them out to do jobs and that sort of thing. So I've just continued, So, like I said, even when I was really sick.
Well, actually, as our listeners may or may not remember, I was hit with cancer last year, and I'm thankfully in remission now. But one of the things that I decided, and you obviously decided at the same time, is that to keep incredibly busy and to keep your mind off it, and do as much as you can, isn't it, to keep your mind off it?
Well, they say being positive, is one of the best cures for cancer. So. And, keeping active as well. So I think in our case, it's obviously worked.
Are you still singing, Janelle?
Not as much anymore. So I sing in a choir, and our choir concert is this Saturday. So getting ready to go out to choir rehearsal tonight. And I'm singing the Spirit of Christmas concerts at QPAC, which is, just before Christmas. So I'm singing in choirs. Last year and the year before, I sang the national anthem for the opening of the National Archery Championships in Brisbane, but not so much anymore, because one of the problems of being on immunosuppression drugs for my transplant is that now I've got a chronic lung infection, so it's made singing a lot more difficult.
Right, because singing is I can't sing for love or money. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. But I would imagine, and I've heard so often, that singing is a tremendous therapeutic thing to be with a whole choir where you're all enjoying doing the same thing.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love singing choirs, and just hearing that blend and harmony of voices. And, when you're, under a conductor and they're choosing the music. And so, like, our concert this Saturday is all colours. So, we're singing a song about red and a song about orange and a song about blue and all this sort of thing. So it's interesting material. And like I said, you get the camaraderie of singing in a choir.
And you've delivered conference papers and presented workshops and talks at arts, disability, health and fundraising conferences and events around Australia and in Paris, Bermuda, Seoul, Chicago, Montreal and many other places. So, you certainly are on the go, Janelle.
Well, I like to keep busy. I actually hate being bored more than anything else. So keeping myself absolutely active all the time is something that's very important to me. But I've just been invited to give a presentation at the World Diabetes Congress in Bangkok next year. So that's my next opportunity. But obviously, a lot of the different invitations I get, because I'm a public speaker, because I can talk about disability or about the arts or about my different health issues. And so, I've got a lot of different health issues I can talk about. So, and when I can get in there and sing as well, it makes me a very wanted speaker.
Exactly. And all round, we'll get on to archery a little bit later. But I was also amazed to find out that for 10 years you were the convener of Sisters in Crime, Queensland, a worldwide group of female crime writers. So are you a writer as well, Janelle?
Yes. I've always written ever since I was a kid. And obviously when I was really sick and on dialysis for 3.5 years, and not up to doing so many other things, I just started writing a lot more ferociously. And so basically I love reading crime, so I love writing crime. So that's what's happening. So I'm publishing quite a lot of anthologies with my short stories. And I'm convener of Sisters in Crime Queensland for about 10 years.
Now, is that true life crime or fiction?
So I write fiction.
Right.
But some of the other members write true crime.
Well, one of my guests was Megan Norris. I don't know whether you know Megan.
Yes, I know Megan.
Yes, she was one of our first guests on here, and of course she writes true crime, and so has written many books on true crime. So you said you write also for magazines and government departments, and you've had many articles published. So, as I said, you keep yourself pretty busy. But to top it all of that, you took up blind archery and became a master in that. Now, tell us, how on earth did you start to become to become an expert in blind archery?
Well, I was actually over in Wales doing an arts leadership mentorship, and when I was reading what I could do in this little village where I was staying, I discovered that they did archery in the nave. So it was this 16th century church which did archery on a Friday night, and so I went down there and said, well, I'm blind, can I do it? And the person taking it just happened to be an ex-Olympic champion who had taught blind archers before, so she told me how to do it. And then she told me how to get out into it once I got back to Australia. And I've never been into sports. I've always been into the arts, so never been into sports before. And I actually followed it up when I got home, and my local club, the Sanford Valley Target Archers, welcomed me to come and, they would train me and this sort of thing, because they were very, very welcoming to people with disabilities. And so I took it up, and then about a year later I competed in my first competition, and I was disappointed I only got silver, even though I was really sick at the time, and it was surprising that I could, shoot at all. And then after that, I just started getting the gold medals and breaking records.
How extraordinary. How does it work? Do you have somebody helping you to line it up, as one would say, or how does it work for our listeners who are wondering?
Absolutely, they won't let blind archers be there without an assistant. So I have a foot plate, which my brother made me the foot plate, which is, great of my brother to be able to do that. And he just made a foot plate for another blind archer.
What is a foot plate? Tell me what a foot plate.
So it's to line my feet up, so I'm lined up. So I'm facing in the direction of, my feet are in the right position to get me lined up with the target. And then I have a tripod, like just a camera tripod, which then has a tactile on the top of it, so I can push that against the back of my hand. So then my assistant lines my hand up with the target.
Right.
So obviously he's trying to get it, so I'm going to hit the bullseye.
Yes.
And then it's up to my technique that once my feet are in the right alignment, once my hand's in the right alignment, and obviously my assistant will adjust things to make, move it a millimetre right or left or up or down to line up with the bullseye. And so that's the way we do it.
Right. Now, Paul, did you get all that? Do you think you could become an expert in that?
I was actually thinking about having a go. Haven't yet, but it sounds like a good opportunity.
It sounds incredible. And so, Janelle, that's taken you around the world quite a bit as well?
So I've only been to Birmingham for the International Blind Sports World Games last year. So other than that, it's taken me around Australia competing in the national championships.
Well, it must be, it just sounds absolutely incredible. But you have said, in fact, singing is really about breath control and core strength, two things that are really integral to archery as well. I already had those two things you said, so singing and archery go really well together. Now, I wouldn't have imagined that, but it does now that you've said it. It sounds right, isn't it?
Well, because when you're going to shoot, you need to hold your breath because you don't want to be taking a breath when you're shooting because that's going to wobble the arrow slightly. And like I said, a millimetre up or down is the difference between, potentially 30 centimetres on the target. And so since I'm shooting on an 80 centimetre target at 30 metres, that makes a huge difference to your score. So I have to take, a deep breath in and a deep breath out and then hold it. And also the core strength because obviously my body can't wobble and that's one of the problems most blind archers have is their body is wobbling because you don't have the horizon to level and steady yourself.
You've sung wonderful renditions of Advance Australia Fair and God Save the Queen. Tell us when those occasions were, Janelle.
So I've sung the national anthem lots of times.
Yes.
Because there's always something, and especially years ago, I used to sing it during Disability Action Week for the basketball and wheelchair rugby and all sorts of things. So that was fantastic. And now I've been singing it for the National Archery Championships in Australia.
Your whole career just sounds absolutely extraordinary. What's in the future now for Janelle Colquhoun?
So I'm planning next year to spend a lot more time on my writing because I've actually got a novel written.
Oh, really?
It's a crime novel with a blind protagonist and her specially trained guide and police dog, and they're investigating crimes. And so I've got the first draft done, and it's just a case of just sitting down and spending the time to do the second draft. So I'm hoping to actually get that finished next year and finally off to some publishers. So I'm booked in for a writer's retreat next year to just give me a kick up the pants about that. And I'm hoping to qualify to get to the World Championships in archery next year. So I have to get 2 qualifying scores to get to that. So that's lots of competitions leading up to that. I'm planning to compete in the Masters National Archery Championships in Canberra next year and potentially in the Para National Championships in Sydney. That's just depending on the timing of that because it might be that I'm in Bangkok at the same time when I'm delivering the talk for the World Diabetes Congress. And, I'm on lots of different health committees as a consumer rep, so that's still all going on. I did tell you that I also do role playing for GP exams. So that's a full day every 6 months.
For what exams, Janelle?
So for GP, so for medical students who are going to be accredited as GPs.
Oh, I see. Right. Yes.
And so I role play patients. So they give me the script for the patient. And that's on Zoom, so you just sit there and do 15 exams back to back on a day. That's fun.
I'm exhausted just listening what you've got on the horizon. How is your health at the moment?
At the moment, it's really good. So I'm keeping really physically fit, and I'm a really healthy eater. So I have exercise physiology sessions twice a week to keep my core strength muscles and my other muscles all good, and then I train in archery 2 or 3 times a week as well. So trying to keep fit and keep healthy.
Where do you go to do your archery?
So I go out to Sanford Valley Target Archers.
As you say, that would certainly keep you fit. What I didn't discuss right at the very beginning, Janelle, is that are you a Brisbane girl initially, or where were you born?
Yes, I'm Brisbane born and grew up here and went to school here, and then obviously studied at the conservatorium here, and then tripped off to Sydney and Melbourne and then over to Germany.
You've certainly, as I've said a number of times during this interview, no matter what setbacks you've had, it really, really doesn't hold you back at all. It's just extraordinary.
Well, it just keeps me off the streets.
Oh, it certainly does. But I would imagine, Paul, you're pretty amazed to hear all of that as well.
Certainly am, yeah. You've done a lot in your life, Janelle. I haven't quite done as much.
Yeah, well, I don't like getting bored. That's what I hate more than anything else, getting bored. So I try and fill in my days every day.
Oh, well, it certainly sounds as though you don't, but I'm absolutely amazed because I'm looking at Paul through the window here who's producing this show, and of course Paul has no sight either and is doing an incredible job. So I sat in front of that board for 5 minutes and I had no idea how to do it and gave up. So I'm full of admiration for people who can achieve what you and Paul have so much when you have a sight, no sight, I should say. Now, Janelle, if people want to contact you, I noticed that you've got a LinkedIn page, Facebook. Which is the best way that they can contact you?
If they look up my business, Salubrious Productions, they can find my phone number and my email address. So that's probably the best way. Or people can, message me through Facebook because I regularly get requests for bookings and that sort of thing through Facebook messaging and that sort of thing as well. So anyway.
So that's Facebook, Janelle Colquhoun, just on Facebook?
Yeah, but I think there's another Janelle Colquhoun as well.
Oh, right. But I'm sure they'll find the... And the other thing is, if somebody would really like to contact you and having difficulties, they can contact us here at Reading Radio, and we can pass on information to Janelle and she can look at contacting you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Janelle Colquhoun, opera singer, Australian Blind Finalist of the Year and Blind Archery Champion, thank you so much for being my guest today. And this recording is taking place at Reading Radio in Brisbane.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.